Changing my self-concept has been the most revolutionary thing that I did, and it made my life do like a whole 360, 180, whatever the expression is in English. And I want to tell you like how I did it, how you can do it too, provide a few examples as I always do with my videos, because I feel like a lot of people, when they talk about their self-concept or like how they change their self-concept, because there's like thousands of videos on YouTube or whatever about this, it sounds so easy, but it actually isn't. I'm not going to say it's not easy, because it is, like, the theory is easy, but just like the experience of it sometimes might be a bit hard depending on where you are at life. Because as some of you know, like 2 months ago, I went through a breakup with the person that I thought was like the love of my life, someone that I was going to build the future with, and all of these things. And right now, it's just like, my life is amazing. Like, I'm writing a book that's going to be published beginning of January. I have the most amazing group of friends. I've met new people. I have like leveled up in so many areas of my life, and things just keep on coming and coming and happening for me. And it's like, it's crazy what changing a few things about yourself to yourself can do for you, but also like what you have to go through in that meantime, because I feel like that's something that not a lot of people talk about. So let's get into it. So what is your self-concept, and why is it so powerful to manifest your entire reality and like do a full like 360 or 180 whatever in your life? And it's because, as Neville Goddard once very wisely said, is everyone or everything that happens in your reality, in your physical reality, in your 3D, is you pushed out. It reflects something that you think about yourself, you feel about yourself, or you believe about yourself. So let's say, for example, if I say, oh, I did this bad thing when I was like 5 years old, and people made me feel really bad about that thing, so I started to believe since then that I was a bad person, which means that I believe that I deserve bad things happening to me. If I carry that label with me for the rest of my life, that is part of my self-concept, and I'm gonna keep on attracting situations that treat me really badly. Why? Because I think that I'm a bad person, or I believe myself to be a bad person, because that is the concept that I have about myself. So, since in this world you can't really change people or change certain circumstances, like there's a lot of things in your physical reality or anything that's not you that you don't have control over. So the only thing that you have control over is yourself, and you can do a whole like change, like as you get boobs and like implants or whatever, you can do the same thing internally, and it's easier because it doesn't cost money, and it's just a matter of you working on yourself. What I do want to say is that changing your self-concept, what I meant about it not being easy, is that it's not linear. It's not something that you're just like here thinking, oh, I'm a bad person. So you're like, okay, realize that I'm actually not a bad person, and I'm gonna start believing that I'm a good person. So I'm gonna start believing that, and then everything just will come into my life. That's not how it happens. Because I had the belief that I was really selfish when I was younger, because whenever I wanted to, like, I don't know, set boundaries with people who would abuse me not having boundaries would always say like, oh, now you're being so selfish, you're not allowing me to be myself, you're not allowing me to say whatever I want, when it's like, no, I'm just setting boundaries to respect myself. You're just not used to me doing that. So people, or like your external reality, will always fight with what your like core beliefs are, because those beliefs, like, even though they were planted like 20 years, 30 years, whatever, however long ago in your brain, when you try to change those, it's not that easy to go from like having believed that you were like the worst person in the world for 20 years to, oh, now I believe I'm the best person in the world in like 2 years or in a year. It's not that it's hard, and it's not that you cannot do it, it's just that it's gonna take a bit of like, one day you're gonna believe the new belief, and another day you might like kind of slip back into the old one, and it's just like a matter of like consistency. At the end of the day, it's just all a matter of consistency. And changing your self-concept also will mean letting go of a lot of things in your reality that are not serving you right now. Because what happened is, I started changing my self-concept like really like consciously, let's say 2 years ago or 2.5 years ago, and that was like right before I met my now ex-boyfriend. And I started changing certain things of like, oh no, I'm a good person, I am very generous with my friends, I provide so many things in a relationship, this and this and this and that. And so I started attracting into my life certain situations, friendships, relationships, whatever, that really reflected that. And my relationship with my ex at the beginning also kind of reflected that. But then there were like certain moments, and I feel like that's something that everyone is gonna run into at some point, is like, you're gonna attract, like, you're both gonna attract the good things, like the things that really reflect who you wanna become, and then you're also gonna attract people who are gonna try to make you doubt that self-concept. And obviously, like, if you're not like super set in stone of like, I'm a good person and I deserve good things, if there's like a 1% of you that maybe still believes that they're a bad person, if there's one narcissist that comes into your life, if there's one manipulative psychopath, whoever that comes into your life, they're gonna come and make you doubt yourself. And if you're not like super set in stone of like, I am this way, and you know, like nothing's gonna change the way that I perceive myself, they're gonna make you fall. And that's something that kind of happened with me, that I had the best friends, like in the past 2.5 years, let's say. I started attracting like super high vibe friendships. I started attracting like really great job situations, like jobs that paid me what I wanted to pay me, and this and that. But then I also attracted certain very narcissistic people, like my ex, for example. And one of the examples, or one of the best examples that I have from like recently, actually, like from the beginning of this year, is that it came to a point where like I had made friends with like my YouTuber idols, people who sing that I've been listening to for years, like my people who are like more leveled up than me in certain aspects, you know, like high vibe people. I had these group of friends that were like high vibe, and they would be like, Ada, you're an amazing person, you give so much to this friendship, I value you so much, blah blah blah. My family, who like I've had a troubled relationship with, even though I had like a complicated relationship with them, they also, like my mom has been saying, like, I see that you've grown so much, this and this and that. My sisters, who have known me my entire life, they're also like, Ada, you are like amazing, you've become like such a great person, blah blah blah. So there was this like 95% of like my environment who told me like I was great, and they reflected back the self-concept that I was wanting to create for myself. And then there was my ex and his mother and someone else around like that circle, who were always telling me the opposite, who were like, you're so selfish, you're this, you're that, blah 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 blah. And what happens is, like, since I gave my power away to this person who honestly, like, I don't know why I did that. It was probably like insecurities and things that I still needed to work through. I allowed this person to kind of like keep me down, keep me low, and not allow me to fully believe that self-concept about myself. So I wanted to say, or like set this example in this video, because probably not everyone is going to go through this. Maybe some people are going to have it way easier because they're more determined, or they're stronger when it comes to like, no, I'm going to believe this, and I'm not going to let anyone doubt myself. I still struggle, or I'm still healing my codependency, so for me this was a problem. But the thing at the end of the day is, like, what I do believe is that the universe just brought me this person and these people around this person that just made me question myself, because there was a part of me in myself that still questioned if I was a good person, if I was selfish, if I was all of these things, you know? So at the end of the day, it's just like, I guess the universe will always bring you what you believe about yourself. And like, if you believe yourself to be a great person, but there's a bit of doubt, it's also going to be reflected in your exterior reality. So what do you do to change your self-concept and to do it like as effortlessly as possible? Because as I said, like in the past 2.5 years, I've been changing it and like kind of coming, even though there were these people kind of like doubting me and telling me that I was a bad person or like whatever, I kept on saying to myself like, no, I think I'm a good person. I feel like they're trying to manipulate me. I feel like this, I feel like that. And I persevered. And that's what you need to do. Like, you need to first think like, okay, what is the concept that I have about myself right now? And you can even like look at your current relationships, current job situation, current reality, whatever, to see like, okay, what do I have to believe about myself to have created this situation? For example, if you're with a guy or a girl who doesn't really value you, you might think like, oh, maybe I'm not good enough, maybe this, maybe that, you know? So make a list of all the things that you believe about yourself right now. What's your self-concept now? And once you have that, then think about like, okay, who do I want to be? What is the self-concept that I want? Or if you want to manifest certain things like a house, job, a partner, whatever it is, think about like, what do I need to think about myself? What should my self-concept be for me to attract all of these things, you know? And then write those beliefs down. So then you will have two lists of like the old you and the new you. And then what you need to do is to start kind of like believing yourself with all of these things. First things that you can do is obviously affirmations. If you can, like I'm going to do like a separate video with like high value like affirmations for like a better self-concept that are going to be a bit more generic. But if you have the time and whatever to kind of like record them for yourself and just listen to them like every morning, every night, whatever, or just listen to other videos or subliminals, that's going to be really helpful if you can repeat them to you constantly. But it obviously doesn't end here, because I think affirmations can be really powerful, but if an affirmation is not really tied with an action, it's not going to be as useful as you think it's going to be, you know, because I feel like everyone is like, oh yeah, do affirmations and that's it. No, affirmations need to go with actions. For example, let's say that you've always thought that you were very, I don't know, that you're not super spontaneous and you want to be a more spontaneous person because that's something that you just want to change for whatever reason, you know? And you start repeating to yourself every morning, like, I'm spontaneous, I say yes to plans last minute, I do this, I do that, whatever. the universe will then bring you situations that will either confirm that or will deny that, and you need to take action. I'm not saying that every time someone offers you an opportunity to be spontaneous, like if you don't want to do it, you don't have to do it. But then this is what's important about here, is that if someone offers you something to be spontaneous and it's something that you want to do but you're afraid, you need to do it, because the more you do actions that confirm that affirmation will stick more to your brain and to your essence, if that makes sense, and your self-concept will start to change and just become more and more set in stone, you know? It's like, I would say, maybe this is not a great metaphor, it just like came to my mind, but you know when people like made swords and they're like in this moment where like they put them on fire and they just hit them with a hammer and hit and hit and hit, and then they let them turn cold and then just like set, and then the sword will like not change its form. It's kind of that. You need to kind of like hammer it with actions that confirm that. Or if there's moments where like people offer you an opportunity to be spontaneous, but you don't really want to do it, or you're tired that day, because I'm not saying that you're gonna make excuses for it, but sometimes you will be tired, you will be like not feeling your greatest, and you don't need to say yes to absolutely everything, because we're human at the end of the day. You need to find a reason to explain it that doesn't say like, oh, I failed, I'm not spontaneous, because if your mind just goes there, then you're gonna be kind of contradicting the actions that do say that you're spontaneous, you know what I mean? So for example, if like you get your period and you're tired and you had a really hard week and you don't really feel like going out with a group of people, you can be like, oh, I really would like to go there and I'm still spontaneous, but right now like I don't really feel like hanging out with these type of people, or I want to prioritize like taking care of myself, or I need to rest, or whatever, you know. Don't let the reason for why you're not doing that thing be like, oh, I failed, I'm not spontaneous, you know, because that's something that I think people kind of like who are really hard on themselves, and I've done that too, do that sometimes, and then they end up kind of like contradicting all the good actions that they've been doing to be spontaneous. That being said, after saying your affirmations and also tying your affirmations with actions to kind of like really set them in stone for yourself, there's the next thing, and this is kind of like the most complicated one, because for me it's kind of like the one that probably made me, I'm not gonna say be stuck, because I feel like I just needed to go through this learning phase to kind of like let go of certain things in certain situations. But you need to kind of like surround yourself with the people and the situations that will affirm what you want to believe about yourself. As I said, if you believe yourself to be like someone who's like amazing and who provides so much and who deserves the world, if you have a partner who's treating you like shit, you cannot be with that partner. I'm really sorry. And that's something that I tried to fight for like 2.5 years. Well, maybe not that long, because the first like 10 months of the relationship, that person really valued me and did everything perfectly, as narcissists do. Like they mask and they pretend to be perfect, and then they just like flip, and then they're like, who is this person I'm dating? He used to be perfect and now he's treating me like shit. Like, what happened here? But you need to have the strongest boundaries within yourself to be able to let go of people that are not treating you the way that you think you deserve to be treated, you know, because like if your self-concept is like, oh, my time is valuable, I'm amazing, I'm one of a kind, and all of these things, and you're giving your time freely to assholes, I'm sorry, but like that goes against your self-concept, and you're not going to be able to set it in stone, you know. And that's something that happened to me. Like I know that from experience, and it's not the first time that has happened to me, but you know, it's a work in progress, and maybe it will take you some time. And I'm not saying you have to dump someone like immediately when it comes to like friends, boyfriends, girlfriends, family members, job, whatever. But you have to start by setting boundaries. For example, if someone's not treating you the way they should, like when it comes to friendships, you set boundaries. And you set boundaries 1 time, 2 times, 3 times. But when you've set boundaries with someone 10 times and they're still not respecting you, I'm so sorry, but you need to like let go of that situation, because having that situation in your life is just gonna hinder your growth. And I know it's hard, because like that's what I'm saying. This is like the hardest part, or at least for me it was the hardest part, because I was always like, no, but I think we can make it work, because I used to see the potential in this person or in this friend or in this whatever. And it's like, it's fine that you see someone's potential, it's fine that you want to keep them in your life, but if you keep them in your life, you're not going to grow, you're not going to level up. And if they are more important than your own level up, you have a problem. I had a problem. So that's why it's really important for you to kind of like, even if it's, because I'm going to say this too, when I started setting boundaries with my ex, because what I started is like, well, I can set boundaries with this person and I can just like have my own life, level up in my own way. And if this person wants to like level up with me, they will. And if not, they're just going to fade away, and they will at some point not be able to kind of catch up with me. And that's honestly kind of what happened. It's like, since my boyfriend sometimes didn't want to hang out during the week or didn't want to see me as much or whatever, which is something that I was not okay with, at some point I just like started doing my own life during the week. I just started meeting with new friends. I used to skate with him, so I started finding new friends to skate with. I started to do all of these things. So it came to a point where like, if this is the distance between like you and your partner or your friend or your work situation or whatever it is, it kind of like goes up and down, and like they take you down, and you know, it's easy for them to kind of like keep you down, if that makes sense. But when it comes to a point where you start leveling up and you start being like very responsible for yourself and be like, I'm going to level up and do this and this and this and this, there's going to be a point where they're not going to be able to catch up. They can go up till here, but they cannot go here to like drag you down again. And they will at some point inevitably fade away from your life. And this is what happened with my ex, where like he started to mess up with like this thing, smaller thing, and bigger and bigger and bigger, and then he cheated on me. And that for me was like the last thing. And then he was the one who actually wanted to break up with me. He wasn't actually really sure, but he kind of like was the one who brought it up. And then it was like, actually, why do I want to be with this person anyway? And we broke up, or he broke up with me, whatever, like 2.5 months ago. And the funny thing is like, I have not cried over that breakup. I have not really like missed him at all, because like I had already built this amazing life for myself. Like the moment he left, like even if already some blessings were coming into my life, the moment he left, it's kind of like as he was blocking even more abundance and more blessings and more things to come in. And like all of these job offers started to come in, all of these new friends. Like for example, I was super worried, like, oh, I really like, one of the things that we enjoy doing together is going skating, and I was like, well, I only have like one friend I can go skating with. What am I gonna do? Blah, blah, blah. And then he left me. And literally like 2 weeks later, one of my, well, the friend that I go skating with was like, oh wait, I'm going on this trip to like this island in Spain. Do you wanna come with me? We can bring us surfboards and skateboards and this and that. And I was like, oh great. So I went with her. And then the guys that were staying at the same house as us, they are also skaters. So we all went skating together. And then when we came back, she was like, oh wait, I'm actually going on the surf trip with like 4 of my friends. You don't know them, but we have 2 vans and we still have an extra spot left. Do you want to come with us? And we're going to bring surfboards and skateboards, and we're going to make it like a skate trip. Which is actually, funnily enough, something that my ex would always say, like, oh, I want to go on this skate trip that for you and me, and this and that. And he's been saying that for 1.5 years. Have we done it? No, because he always said all these things that we were going to do and that we never did. And then I broke up with him, and these group of girls just planned the skate trip. I had to do nothing, and I just went with them, paid for gas, whatever. And I just met this new group of amazing friends where I now go like skating with like once or twice a week. We plan trips and they actually happen, and it's like, what was I doing with this person, you know? Like everything that I wanted to have with him that was like this potentially like, oh, it's gonna happen one day, 8 hours, it's just like not a good time right now, or I don't have the money right now. It was always excuse after excuse after excuse for something not to happen. And the moment I kind of let go of that energy, I met the people who made it happen for me, you know? So, and not, this is like, my ex is kind of like the best situation and the most recent one to explain this, but this has also happened to me with like friends or with work situations where like I've had work situations where they've treated me like shit, and they were like, oh, you're not gonna find a better job that pays you this much money by working these amount of hours. And now I found jobs that pay me like 5 times more money, and I work at 10% of the hours that I used to work in. So people will always kind of like try to make you small, try to make you like dim your light and just be this like really tiny thing in a box. But you need to kind of like be free yourself from all of these things and let go of the people. Because the moment you let go of anyone who's blocking you and you believe fully in your self-concept, you're going to be attracting like the craziest things. I actually have another video, I think, on the channel where I talk about like why you're not manifesting things, and kind of this whole concept of like sometimes you have people in your life that are blocking your blessings. So if you want to check that out, it's over there. But basically, yeah, that's it. I know that the last part is kind of like the most complicated one for like someone to set boundaries if you've always been a people pleaser and kind of like let go or like stop being friends with people. But I can tell you, if it helps in any way, that there was a time in my life like 5 years ago or something like that where I felt like everyone in my life was kind of trying to manipulate me and block me and whatever, and I stopped. Like I cut off like all my friendships and I moved to another place, like in the same city but to another place, and I started a new job just to kind of like start from scratch because I felt like everyone in my life is just kind of blocking me and I just can't deal with it anymore, and I'd rather be alone than deal with all of these people. And I did that being fucking afraid because I was like, I don't know anyone. It was a time where I also wasn't sure if I was going to be good at making new friends at my age. That was 26 back then. But funnily enough, I moved into this new apartment without knowing anyone. And then on the first week living there, started my new job, my coworkers were amazing. Then I went to this coffee place like on the corner of my house, and I made friends with the barista, who's like now one of my best friends, like 4 years later. And after another week, I made another friend who was my neighbor. Like she lived like literally a street away from me, and we met at a networking event. And she had like all the same interests as me, so I had someone that I would like go to her house to make dinners with. So anytime like you let go of people, I can promise you, like if it's people who are blocking you, you will attract much better people, much better situations, even though it's scary at first, okay? So I just wanted to leave you with that note. I hope this video was helpful, and if you have any suggestions for further videos, you can leave them down below, and I'll see you guys next time.